paper with a new ownership model in a country with a big media problem.
Abbiamo pensato, se era
We
possibile...
thought, let's make a newspaper that doesn't have an owner, who can affect the editorial line, whose only goal is making the balance sheets work.
This is not a good time for media freedom in Italy. Without looking at our usual world rankings in press freedom, you can see that there is a general environment which doesn't support the media, which doesn't support the freedom of expression.
In the past year, Italy has seen two major protests about the country's media situation. Italians know they have a problem getting information. The question is, how do they fix it? And the problems are not just in television. They also exist in print.
The Italian media is characterized by the phenomenon of impure owners, owners who also have vested financial interest in other sectors, not just the print media.
So when Il Fatto Quotidiano, or the Daily Fact, was launched last year, it said it would offer an alternative to newspapers whose owners had various other interests. The founders of the paper said they'd come up with a different ownership model, limiting investors to no more than a 16% stake in the publication. Many of those who bought in were the journalists themselves. The paper claims it's not just run by its staff, it's owned by them.
From day one, we said that anyone could work for us, but there are two conditions. Firstly, we would all be on minimum wage, because we couldn't afford anything else. The second was that if the paper was making a loss after 1 year, then we would shut it down.
At the newsstands, we sell about 60 to 65,000 copies. We have about 12,000 subscribers by post and around 32,000 online. The online subscribers get the newspaper at midnight, but they also have access to our entire archive.
Newspaper subscription figures are notoriously hard to confirm. But there is anecdotal evidence that will support what the Daily Fact is saying. It comes from word on the street.
What they have managed to do is create an editorial space that didn't exist before. I see the people who are buying these newspapers. They are the angry ones, the ones who never came to the newsstands before.
With so many of their journalists financially invested in the product, and without the backing of a wealthy owner who could afford to take losses, the paper knew it had to find a way, from the start, to shift copies quickly.
Before the Daily Fact arrived on newsstands, they created a blog and spread the word on the internet. They got a lot of subscribers that way, and it helped the circulation of the newspaper.
So an effective online campaign helped the paper get off to a good start. But marketing means nothing unless it's backed up with good content. The headline of their very first edition read, Letta under investigation. Gianni Letta is Prime Minister Berlusconi's right-hand man. He was under investigation over the awarding of building contracts in southern Italy. But the scoop couldn't be found in any of the other newspapers because, the Daily Fact says, Mr. Letta is considered a bipartial politician, friendly with the left and the right. So even in Italy's politically partisan print media, nobody went with the story.
Prima che uscisse il giornale...
Before the newspaper came out, we said to each other, let's hope that none of the other papers beat us to it. But in reality, we could have waited years and that story wouldn't have come out.
The paper says it isn't politically aligned. It also doesn't receive public funding. It's already a problem in Italy, where journalists write favorably on whoever is signing the paychecks. But does it guarantee the impartiality of the Daily Fact's journalists?
They present themselves as an objective newspaper, but they do lean to the left. They give a little wink to the left-wing public.
Everyone sees the world through their own eyes, and that's how they describe it. The journalists at the Daily Fact see it their way, and we see it our way. The only difference between us is that they are convinced that what they see is the truth.
Given the encouraging circulation figures, there would appear to be at least some room in Italy's politicized print media landscape for a newspaper with an independent editorial line.
I wouldn't say they've created a new model. They are partial just like the rest of us. We also conduct investigations. We also report the faults of the opposition.
The Daily Fact has definitely given us food for thought, an editorial case study of great interest.
Nel nostro piccolo.
In our own way, we've shown that with a sense of adventure, a bit of capital, and a desire to do the job, you can make newspapers that sell. We hope that other journalists follow our example, because with more independent newspapers out there, the easier it gets to defend the media's independence.
But whether the Daily Fact is here to stay or has just created a temporary niche and added another voice to the cacophony that already exists in the Italian media is hard to tell. But there are some positive signs.
C'è una copia del Fatto?
No, è finito.
That's Italian, for the paper is sold out.